Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 259 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one live podcast in Canada. We're recording on September the 9th, 2020. As always, my name is Andrew. I'll be your host. Joining me tonight are Ian and Gavin, and we have a special guest, Krusty Canuck.
Hello, how are you all doing?
Good. And we'd love to hear your feedback about the show, so please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Maybe tell us who else you'd like us to invite onto the show. Version of the show is available on Stitcher and iTunes.
You can check out the podcast on Facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast and Instagram at Instagram.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast.
We need your help, clearly. To support the show, visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon today. You get a better quality version of the show for just $1 an episode, and since we've moved to the 2-show-a-week COVID format, Patreons get early access to the midweek show. Show you're not a communist and buy a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com and follow the link all the way over on the right side of the homepage. Remember, we're going extremely to the right. It's time for my favorite segment. That's called What Are We Drinking? It's where I ask everyone on the panel, what are we drinking? I'm going to start with Gavin and go clockwise like usual. Gavin, what are you drinking?
I am drinking some Coors Original, hand-delivered to me this evening.
Gross.
And another podcast. They haven't been around for a little while, though. Tyler dropped these off to me as he was in town, and we may or may not have crushed a few in the Five Guys parking lot.
Nice.
It works, yeah.
My regards to Tyler and Five Guys, but also Coors Original is not Coors Banquet.
It goes well with Five Guys in a parking lot, though.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, that sounds really bad.
I mean, I will take your word for it. Ian, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking Corona tonight.
Topical. I like it. And Krusty, I saw that you were smoking. Are you also drinking, sir?
I'm drinking a beautiful cup of coffee brought to you by my sweat and labor through the Keurig machine. And of course, you know, not to plug another company in your show, but these guys make a good brew. So, but I've also cut my drinking out of my diet now. I haven't touched a drop of liquor in about, actually, a month ago I had a beer. So, and I think that beer was Lucky Lager.
Right on. Do you want to go ahead and plug your coffee company of choice there while we're talking drinks?
Yeah, maybe they'll give us some money.
Or some coffee. I'll take coffee.
I don't know if I'm allowed to. You know, it's okay. Actually Knoxville House coffee in a Black Rifle coffee cup. So I couldn't take Black Rifle this week.
That's fair.
Oh.
That's fair.
But yeah, old adage: infantry, smokes, and coffee. That's the way it goes, right? Breakfast of champions.
Well, what does the army run on? Caffeine and nicotine, right?
Exactly, and pure rage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was down in Arkansas a couple years ago taking a week-long class, and we had two former SAS guys as the instructors. And yeah, I don't think I ever saw them eat, and I certainly didn't see them drink anything that wasn't coffee. Just those shitty white styrofoam cups all day with that 1,000-yard stare, just sipping on that same cup of coffee that they would refill at least 100 times, and then just nothing but cigarettes in between. It was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the way it goes. Of that, or it's chew, one or the other. You know, it's either chew. Before I left the service, a lot of guys were doing those bandits. They stick in your lip and spit. And some guys just bring a spit cup with them to work. You know, that's all.
Well, you finish the coffee and then you've got a spitter. That's
exactly. Yeah, environmentally sound, right? There you go. Yeah. Climate Barbie would like that.
Yeah.
Well, she's not Climate Barbie now. I don't know who the current environment minister is.
Oh, she's Barbie the McKenna. That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to keep up when they change who's in cabinet every week.
Well, that's the thing. That's Trudeau's plan, right?
Yeah, he changes them more than he changes his socks.
Oh, that's scary.
Saying something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, let's tell everybody what we're doing tonight, because this is a little different. We're doing an interview. Krusty Canuck has his own podcast, is kind enough to come on and chat with us for the evening about his history and his show, and hopefully we get some listener cross-pollination between those two things, because I think we're going to find if you listen to one show or the other, you're not going to be terribly disappointed. I think there's a lot of common content.
I agree. I've seen some of your work, guys, and you guys are pretty bang on. Just straight-laced Canadians speaking it like it is. The more that we should, I say.
Well, I think that's the thing, is that there are a surprising number of people that share our views. I just don't think that Canadians are a particularly vocal people. So we don't have a lot of Canadian podcasts. We don't have a lot of, let's call them right-leaning Canadian podcasts, conservative-leaning Canadian podcasts. I'm not sure I like the label, though.
I mean, it's such a small group that, we all know each other pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you get into the right-leaning and gun-loving podcasts. We all actually know each other in real life and hang out and have beers together.
Yeah.
Wait, you guys like guns?
Guns are bad.
Evil or
Guns
something?
are evil. Yeah.
Super scary. Well, let's talk about Krusty Canuck. I mean, you mentioned a little bit you were in the Canadian Forces. Do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you did and all of the fun and exciting places the government paid you to go?
Okay. Well, around late 90s, I was at a point in my life where, okay, do I want to get into acting and writing? Because I really sat and I brainstormed that point in my life where, okay, what do I want to do with my life? Like any other functioning 20-something did at that time. And I wanted to give acting and writing a go. And then I studied that for about a year. I did some private studio stuff, some script writing stuff and all that, because I couldn't afford to go to the high-tech schools like Ryerson or anything like that. And I wasn't going to get a lot of money from my folks. They weren't really supportive of it. Now, I'm not blaming mom and dad. That was just the time, right? Okay. And I weighed the odds, studied for about a year, and then come to the conclusion, it's like, well, okay, I can do this and be waiting tables until I'm at least 40, or get in the military and find something a little more substantial, right? So in a way, I kind of gave up and I took something that was a little more secure. And I always had an aptitude for the military because I was, when I was a young lad, I played in cadets and I liked playing outside. And, I remember my sister and I would reenact the Hoth ice battle from Empire Strikes Back, right? So we'd...
As one does, yeah.
Exactly. That's just a passage. By the time you're 4 years old in Canada, you got to learn how to skate. And then you got to reenact your favorite Star Wars or Star Trek episode just to become a real legit Canuck, right? So, but no, I was about 23 and I signed up and I said, okay, if they don't give me a call in December, then that's it. I'm going to pursue the acting and writing thing. Two choices, military or this. Okay. So just before the end of December of 1997, they called me. Yep, we got a position for you. You got to report where you get sworn in 21st of January. Then you report at the end of the month. Oh, okay. So I did it. So I gave my solemn affirmation, did my orientation, all that kind of stuff. And then the ice storm happened. So everything we did, I was supposed to do, went to Meaford, Ontario. That's where I did my basic training and my battle school. So I finally graduated that. And then I got posted to 1RCR in Petawawa of February 99. And then I was the new guy. So, of course, we got all the shit jobs. You're brand new private, so you're treated like garbage. Okay, goes to the job. But then later on, I got into comms, and I got into radios. I got into communications. Had a knack for it. I really enjoyed it. And then my first tour was Afghanistan, 0304. That was more of a peace support security thing, if anything. We did lose a few guys that I knew personally. That happens. Right. It was kind of political at the time. But after that, I stuck around, enjoyed the military for a bit. But then I started training it, getting back into better shape. And I fell in love with scuba diving. And I'm thinking, maybe I should go to the Navy, try to go to the Navy. And so I did all the testing and everything. And I was one math mark shy of qualifying for the transfer. Plus other red tape that goes with, you want to change trades. So to sum it all up, I said, okay, I'll do the test again. Then my sergeant major come knocking on my door when I was working in transport. And he says, you got a background in comms, right? I'm like, yeah, sir. Well, we need a guy for the omelet coming up the next month. for a deployment. We need a radio guy. You got the afternoon to think about it. So I'm like, oh, okay. Do I go overseas for 6 months, or do I reapply to the Navy? So I went overseas for 6 months as the radio guy, what they call the pronto. Basically, I carried the radio, followed the captain around. If we engaged an enemy, then I'm a big target, just like the captain is. So had a few firefights, a few close calls, saw some shit. Yeah, I'm not gonna brag, but yeah, did my fair share of fighting and screaming, and came home, and I realized my career was validated because okay, I'm actually doing something constructive. But then around late 07, some PTSD was kicking in, but I was told by the powers that be, oh, you've got no problems, you're good to go. And then I was single for the longest time until I met my wife, till about 2012. We had some issues, and then I started losing it again. But 2014, I wanted to call it quits, and I didn't, thankfully, because I'm here. And I got some help, and I started waking up to things. My perception of politics was vastly different than what it was, let's say, in 2010. I wanted people to be free to do what they wanted to do. I didn't care who owned guns. I didn't care who was gay or straight or however they identify or whatever. I just want people just to be people and do their thing. Like, for example, Andrew, I could say, yeah, I want you to build your deck and not have to pay your local government $200 for a license to do it on your property. Or Ian, I could say, I want you to do what you want to do with your driveway without having to pay municipality extra money. You know what I mean? Just things were adding up, and things, I guess you can say I turned woke, lack of a better term.
No, that is the parlance of the time, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
But the good type of woke.
Yeah.
Common sense.
Your transformation there, being more aware of this stuff. You were still in at the time. You're still serving member.
Yeah, I was still in. I was instructing at the school in Wainwright. The kind of guy walking around with a pay stick, screaming, yelling at the troops. Getting right in their face, calling them every dirty effing name. Big and political correctness.
How do we get that job?
Basically, do what I did. Sit in your hands and do what you're told for about maybe 6 years or so, right? But the unit I was in.
Do you have anything? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. The unit I was in before, their retention rate was kind of slow. I didn't really see a lot of progress in my career-wise till I moved out west to Wainwright. And I started working for, I guess you can say, some better people. And I was treated a hell of a lot differently than I was back in my home unit. Not because I was a better athlete at the time or because I could kick a soccer ball from here to whatever, because I was a big soccer fan and lacrosse fan. Still am. I just don't play it anymore. But I was really into that physical part. And I guess I turned some heads, and I was promoted. Boom, boom, boom. I was master corporal for a bit, and then I got my sergeants about a year and a half later. So I was like, oh, great. This is excellent. But then my problems started. Like I said, the PTSD. I was nightmares, self-doubt, guilt. I drank a lot. Like every weekend I was drinking, and at that time, like I said, I was starting to get awake to things, as much as I respected Stephen Harper, I wasn't a big Harper supporter at the same time, thing is, in the military, you can vote and do whatever you want. You just can't display your political affiliation. Like I say, if you live out in the towns or you live off base, you can't always put a sign in your lawn of who you're supporting, right? Mm-hmm. It's like a conflict of interest per se. There's an actual term for it, but it's basically conflict of interest. But when I got out, I took notes and everything of things I disliked about the new prime minister. And I just started inquiring with libertarians, and I started inquiring with classical liberals, meaning I don't care what you do it well, do the best of your ability, just don't hit people and take their stuff. Simple principles. And I would say the past 10 years in North America, whether you're a Trump supporter or a Hillary supporter or Biden supporter, or up here if you're conservative or liberal, there's that back and forth, that rhetoric. And from my personal experience, I haven't seen too much of a difference, especially when it comes to social politics here in Canada, right? So I chose libertarianism for the simple fact that I was raised in a kind of a liberal household when it meant something, you know. I wasn't raised in a bigoted household. I wasn't raised where to be that, okay, you're up here and everyone else is down here. No, you got to merit and you got to work for something, period, right? I'm sure your parents have told you, like, you want to get ahead, son. Okay, I'll give you allowance, but I want you to cut the grass, or I want you to dig that ditch. I want you to put this fence up. Then I'll give you
sure,
$10.
instilling a work ethic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Simple work ethic. And from what I've seen prior to me leaving the service and after, I have seen an abundance of human beings, and I hate to say it, even people my age too, have this big list of expectations every time they go and do something. I don't believe in giving trophies to people just for showing up. You know, I don't believe in patting someone on the back just because you're there. I want to see an effort. I want to see something from you.
Yeah.
Right. And every job.
Well,
I've had,
I wonder if there's a difference with that between someone who's spent a significant amount of time in service of something greater themselves and say your average Canadian, because I see a lot of the entitlement, and I don't see that as much here. And I mean, there's a much bigger veteran culture in the U.S., especially with like the bro vets with the hats and the T-shirts and the coffee companies and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it as much here. We get a little bit of that, but there seems to be the more socially active, politically active veterans here are still doing something greater than themselves. Like looking at Jody Middick as an example. Despite a drug problem and everything else that went on with him after getting out of the military, he still went to go be a city councilor in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And he's still,
and I know Jody from one of
is a very productive person, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say even in the U.S. it goes back even further than like the recent guys with the coffee companies and the whiskey companies and all of that. Because like if you go like to the VFA, there's the old guys with the hats that say like Korean War and Vietnam, and like, you know, those hats, they're like 12 feet tall with the mesh back. You don't see that here. Like, we don't have veteran trucker hats and stuff like that really that people wear, and wear them with pride to show like, you know, this is what I did, and I did it for my country, and I did it for the right reasons and all of that stuff, right? It's just
well, it's got thing in Canada, we don't seem to like value heroes or people of honor or anything, but it's like, you know, steadfast members of the community, because we all seem to drag them down socialism style, right? So if you have a veteran's hat, it's like nobody really appreciates that the same way that they do down in the States, because we're conditioned from early on to, you know, drag the people down to their level type of thing.
I mean, a lot of the time when our guys have to go away and do good work, they're made to wear those blue helmets. So like they'd even strip away their Canadianness, and now they're not fighting for Canada, they're fighting for something that should be defunded. But you know,
well, I agree. UN has done a terrible job, and you're partially right there in regards to the UN mandate. But when we were in Afghanistan, that was actual warfare too, and I was surprised at the support we did get while we were there. But then once it fizzled away around 2013, 2014, then all of a sudden it was back to normal. Okay, budget cut. Okay, here you guys got hurt. There's guys who've got this, there's guys who got that. Even when I was diagnosed with my issues, it took me a good 3 years to basically get what I earned, right? I've had people say to me, strangers, especially on my podcast and my Facebook page, oh, you soldiers think you're entitled. And it's like, as far as I'm concerned, everyone who's in public service, doesn't matter if you're driving an ambulance, if you're a paramedic, if you're a cop, if you're a firefighter, or if you're a doctor, you get hurt in the service of other people. As far as I'm concerned, you're entitled to things. You're entitled to benefits. I
think that seems to be a problem, a common problem. And again, I think this goes back to like the lazy entitled attitude of your average person, your average Canadian. If you're a serving member, for example, and something happens to you while you're fulfilling the terms of your contract as a soldier.
Yeah.
It's a contract. I mean, yes, it's an entitlement, but it's also a contractual obligation against the crown.
Yeah, it's a legit entitlement because you signed up to do the thing, and if the other thing happens, you get compensated for it. That's what a contract is.
It's not
Exactly.
even entitlement. It's something you earned.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. You're right, Ian. Something I earned, and I invested properly. I looked after things, and now I'm getting taxed on it. Thank you, Morneau.
Sorry, I'm familiar with
but I mean, come on.
with the contract
Go
in the
ahead, Ben.
Canadian Armed Forces, but one would think that if you're injured on the job, it should be in the contract that you are, I wouldn't say entitled, but are required to receive care for those injuries.
Oh,
To-
you are.
to-
You
to a
are.
minor extent.
Yeah.
And the very fact that you have to go to the government and say, excuse me, you're not providing these services that you are contractually bound to do.
Yeah.
That's not you earning something. It's not nothing, because on day one, if that happens to you and you didn't serve 30 minutes in the armed services, your contract, one would think they are required by law to render those services to you.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah.
when your employer is also the person that renders those services to you and also writes and enforces all of the laws, they can do what they want. That's the problem. Where's the onus for them to abide by the contract that they created when they don't need to? I mean, look at what Trudeau said to Brock Blaschek. Oh, you're asking for more than we can give.
Yeah, that infuriated me. That
it should infuriate everybody, because
Well, that
here
ignited-
you have
that
people
ignited-
that even in peacetime, you have people that willingly signed on a dotted line to risk their life should it ever get to that, and and during some training things, depending on how high up the ladder you get, you still are risking your life in training. And then to have them turn around and say that you're asking for too much when it's like, you wrote the contract, I signed it. Like, it's not like you guys wrote your own contracts and the government reluctantly signed it and said, okay, fine, we need you that badly. We'll agree to whatever ridiculous terms. No, they wrote the contract. You agreed to it. Now they're not even holding up their end of it when they created the damn thing to begin with. It's disgusting.
Yeah. And I had to play some phone tag with some individuals at Veterans Affairs too. And there was one day in question where, like right now, the last person I talked to, she guaranteed me that I'm entitled to $83,000 worth of post-secondary training. I'm like, oh, cool, that's great. She says, oh yeah, based on your injury, based on your time served and everything, you are more than qualified to receive this. Here are the applications once you decide what you want to do. Perfect. Now, when I got my payout, I was basically having, a telephone conversation, to say the least, with my rep. And I was, just the way she was talking to me, there was a few of them that used to talk down to me. Well, you don't understand. You don't need this. You don't need that. You don't get this. You don't get that. It's like, okay. So the guys I buried in Ontario, that's irrelevant, eh? Those families of those boys, that's irrelevant, eh? And it must be nice to sit and make 65 to 70 grand a year to tell me what I can have and not have. Must be nice. Oh, there's no need to be unprofessional. And you just want to reach into the phone like those old movies and grab them by the throat. You know what I mean? You just get that, you son of a bitch,
Man, the day that somebody invents the phone where you can actually do that, I will be first in line.
Awesome. Yeah, same here. Same here. Like a fat kid in a Smartie. Right on. Yep.
It sounds like there's a couple of different things that all sort of coalesced around the same time with you, between the PTSD injury and dealing with Veterans Affairs and becoming more aware of the political goings on. It sounds like that all kind of coalesced around the same time.
Yeah, it did.
And
It did. It was, I don't want to toot my own horn, but it was like an epiphany. You know what I mean? It was like, fuck, holy shit. I didn't look at myself as someone who was blinded to it. I just never paid attention to it because you're a soldier. This is what you do. You serve the Maple Leaf, and that's all. Okay. And I did it.
And I think that that's the case. I mean, I can totally appreciate that from the CAF perspective, that like you show up, you do your job, you don't have the legal right to express your political views while you're wearing the uniform. Totally understand that part. But I think that I think it applies to most people in that it's a go along to get along kind of mentality. Well, it doesn't really affect me. Yeah, okay, there's some bureaucrat that tells me I have to do this. Yeah, okay, we have to fill out this form. Like, that's the price we pay to live in a civilized society. It doesn't really, I can watch my Netflix show and it doesn't really matter. I can buy groceries or feed my kid. It doesn't really affect me that badly. And I think that's sort of the broader Canadian mentality is like, as long as I'm not directly affected by it, as long as I don't suffer negatively from it, it's not really my problem.
Yeah, that's the thing. And you agree to it. And like you say, you show up to work every day. And like any other job, you know, I've worked for some great people. There are a lot of people still to this day I'll call friend, and brothers and sisters alike. And what annoyed me the most, though, is when that our defense minister, Mr. Sajan, was saying that there's systematic racism in the Canadian military. There's another guy I want to reach to the phone and grab, you know, because,
for sure.
Like just the stupidity, the sheer stupidity that this guy had, the gall. You know, he was a lieutenant colonel in the reserve, working in Afghanistan. Now, he bragged about his expertise, which wasn't really validated, mind you. And,
but he was instrumental in orchestrating Op Medusa, right?
Oh, exactly. And he's instrumental in getting us the old F-18s too. Great job, Buckeye.
I've yet to actually see his quote unquote, gas mask that you can wear with a beard.
No, I haven't. You know,
I've seen the patent application. It's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad because I mean, this whole podcast kind of really started around, it seems, the same time as your awakening and some of the other things, and like he was one of the guys that were like, well, if we're going to be stuck with the Liberals, at least he seems like a guy that's suited to the job that he's been given.
And he looked remotely qualified on paper to the average non-military person like myself, right?
Yeah.
Well, if they said, hey, you know, Krusty, you want to be the Minister of National Defense? I said, sure, but I'm not a liberal.
Yeah, but at least they put somebody in place that, you know, according to, you know, layman's had military service and all of the, you know.
I mean, I'll take that he was a reservist officer over that he was like, what's Chrystia Freeland again? She's a freelance journalist.
A communist, I believe is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, communist is the word I'm looking for. But I mean, like,
or dare I drop the other C word that I've been known to call MPs from time to time.
No, we're not talking about your favorite MP.
Yeah, exactly.
I can totally see that.
Yeah. Well, really, like when he was elected, okay, and when Trudeau showed off his cabinet because it was 2015, it's like, okay, you got a military guy in charge of the Ministry of Defense. All right, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's a start, right? Like
but in the same sense,
better than a freelance journalist.
Oh, exactly. You know, that's like saying, well, I delivered papers, so I'm a security expert. Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's a stretch. I mean, it does seem, the systematic racism in the military thing does seem also like a stretch.
It is.
Like, for example, Harjit Sajjan, he wears a very stylish and unusual hat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's also a visible minority, and he's also a lieutenant colonel.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
and
clearly
he seems to think he was the architect of Op Medusa, and if that's the case, where's the systemic racism that was preventing him from ascending the lofty heights of lieutenant coloneldom and designing operations? I don't think he actually was an instrumental player in Operation Medusa, but that was the way it was reported.
He was a braggart.
Yeah.
You know, he was,
but I mean, as Minister of National Defense, like that kind of puts you like at the top of the military in a certain way. Like,
yeah,
that seems a lot like not institutional racism.
It's not that it doesn't exist, but certainly not to the extent that they're portraying it.
Well, or the military is like really bad at it, which could be a thing. The military is bad at a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it could be like all that institutionalized stuff in the RCMP, but then they're just incompetent. So,
well, the thing is, it's like the old saying: you can't judge a whole apple crop based on a few bad apples, right?
Well,
And-
unless they're law-abiding gun owners, in which case then they're all horrible.
Well,
yeah.
see, I'm a law-abiding gun owner too. I had to get permission from a doctor, so the CFO can say, can you have a gun? You says here you got PTSD. Are you a threat? So no, my doctor.
Which is weird because for a while you were literally paid to have a machine gun.
Well, I was qualified in the rifle and the pistol,
Yeah.
and the GPMG and the 50 cal.
Yeah, but totally untrusting as a citizen now, right?
Oh,
Completely different when when the crown gives it to you, it's
Right,
totally
that's
different.
Yeah. When they give it to you and they pay for it, and you have undiagnosed PTSD, it's totally fine.
Oh, exactly.
But now that you know that you have a problem and you're seeking treatment for it, and you're a civilian, not okay at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I believe in the military it's a service rifle, but as soon as it becomes in civilian hands, it's an assault rifle, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But then when cops
And if we
have
give it to the cops, it becomes
yeah.
a patrol rifle. It's really magical how the
the
adverb
same thing.
changes.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's how it goes up there with the same saying. Oh, you can't be racist against white people. What? Yes.
Oh,
you
I
can be
spent
racist
enough time up
with
north to prove that one wrong.
anybody. You can be racist with anybody.
Yeah.
And after today's news broadcast, I'm surprised how blatantly racist Justin Trudeau was, and he just didn't bat an eye. Right?
I don't know that he sees it as racism. I guess to fill in our listeners, because this is going to be
When you put the brown or black makeup on your face, that's appreciating other races, right? Oh, you're talking about something
yeah.
new he did. Oh,
Of course.
oh.
We think that when we put cam stick on every time we go to the field. Of course, we're appreciating all these different aspects of life. Yes. Yeah.
yes, definitely.
When Justin Trudeau
it did.
he was expressing himself. Oh yes, look at me. I'm expressing. Yeah.
Oh, he expresses. He's expressing a whole bunch of money to a whole bunch of people that probably aren't me.
Mm. Well, it's
What was that?
look at these
$220 million today for Black Canadian entrepreneurs was the news.
Yeah, it was like an incentive. It was like a program to help them, to give them a boost, help them up on their feet. And the first thing I thought of, though, when I heard that was, okay, I have nothing against anybody in Canada trying to build a business, to build an empire, entrepreneur or whatever. Rogers did it. Look what he did. Arlene Dickinson from the original Dragon's Den. Look what she did. There is tons of opportunity in this country to build a business without government support, right? Like every other business owner I know. What annoyed me the most is that a year ago, he's saying, along with Bill Morneau, that small businesses are tax havens and tax cheats.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And now we don't have a pot to piss in. You automatically have $221 million to invest in a group of people when there are First Nations out there hurting, when there's poison water, when there's infrastructure not being built, when the so-called carbon tax is a joke and you're not doing anything about the climate emergency, right?
Oh, but treating people of different skin colors differently is how we get equality.
Oh,
Right.
of course. Yes. Yeah.
That's not racist.
No. Equity is not about, equity, equity. Even though individuals are supposed to build their own equity, i.e., get your own home. Get your
Well,
own
unless it's a small business, then you're not allowed to have any equity because that's a
that's
tax
right.
shelter. Yeah.
The tax shelter there, except if you represent this group or that group. Oh, okay, I get it.
If it makes a nice soundbite coming up to an election. I mean, I guess we don't know for sure it's an election, but I feel like we're going to see an election soon.
I feel there might be. All parties have said, "Oh no, we're not going to have an election," but I'm pretty sure this throne speech is going to be a real shit show, just like the last throne speech. When we heard the Governor General's speech about the space-time continuum, like, hey, I love my science fiction, but fuck, it's science fiction for a reason. It's not in politics,
So
it's
do you think that? I mean, at the end of prorogation here, in a couple of days, another two weeks, I think, until the throne speech. It's supposed to be on the 23rd.
Yeah, 23rd. So another couple of weeks of the Void Wonder.
2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks from recording this. What do you think they have in store for us, aside from likely more science fiction?
Yeah, and the spaceship Earth and everything. Well, I think they're going to try to make her look like a victim, of course. They're going to promote the whole victim ideology, just like every female politician in this country that was caught doing something stupid. Because I did a couple episodes where I talked about the Governor General not being nice to her staff. And what gets me is I personally believe we should not have the Governor General anymore, because technically we're still a sovereign nation. We just keep the position for the sake of tradition. If we need representation with Her Majesty or His Majesty, whoever is the reign, leave it to the Prime Minister. Right? We don't need a Governor General anymore, as far as I'm concerned. It's just a traditional role. It's like having Mrs. Claus. You really don't need her. You don't.
I'm on board with that. I don't foresee them getting away from having a Governor General any sooner than we're likely to get rid of the Senate, which I think is another one of those political orifices that we could do without.
Yeah. And if we're going to have it, then elect senators, not appoint. Right.
Yeah, I would rather make the processes
get rid of it,
short and cost effective as possible. Because right now it's just another layer of approving things the House has already done.
Yeah.
I mean, much like what the Governor General does in most of their ceremonial role, approving things that other people have already done.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I will sign this bill. Well, you don't really have a choice. It's literally your function.
Yeah. And what does she do other than be the commander-in-chief of our military? I remember when Adrienne Clarkson was the Governor General, and she was never in uniform for any Remembrance Day thing or any ceremonial military thing. And that's kind of insulting, right? Because, she was a journalist and she was an art critic. That was Adrienne Clarkson, and she's the Governor General. So that was, I think the Chrétien government did a big part in that, as well as the Paul Martin government carrying on with Miss Clarkson. And now she's the ceremonial commander of Princess Patricia's Light Infantry. So I'm just like, Yep. Next. That's it. But to answer your question, I think the throne speech is going to be a shit show. They're going to make it up like there's some kind of victimhood going on. And Justin's going to try to buy votes, of course. But I'm positive.
I mean, we see that now.
Yeah.
Oh,
so you've been reading the Liberal playbook too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's obvious. It's obvious. Now, let's say the tables were turned, and let's say the Conservatives were doing the exact same thing. Let's say they won a landslide in 2015 and they had their version of Sunny Ways. I would be as passionate and determined to criticize the government all the same. Right? Like I said, I believe in liberty, meaning I don't care what you do it well, to the best of your ability. Just don't hit people and take your stuff. Socially liberal, fiscally conservative. I'm not telling you what to spend your money on. Don't tell me what to spend my money on.
Yeah, and certainly don't force me to spend my money on shit I don't believe in, which is where we are right now.
Exactly. And the average Canadian right now,
I don't believe in.
Well, yeah, 42.3% is the average Canadian paying in taxes. That's the median. That's the people that are making $49,000 to $52,000 a year. So that's the average salary. Give or take the odd oil job or the odd factory job. But even that's being compromised too, because we've seen the government, how they treat the oil patch. They love oil. They just don't want Canadian oil. Right?
Mm-hmm. Well, they don't own refineries and shipping companies that deal with Saudi oil. So it's inconvenient for their bottom line then, if it's coming from Alberta.
And of course, the slap and tickle they get from Tides Foundations and all the so-called environmental friendly groups out there, which are full of crap.
Of course.
Right. So my idea with liberty basically came after realizing how much taxes I was paying and how much taxes my parents were paying. And then when you look at some equipment and some mandates that are so outdated, no wonder Canadian troops can't do anything. No wonder something can't get done, because there's a slap and tickle over here with this company and that company. And then the procurement board, that's another big mess. So all the tax dollars are supposed to go to securing something, and it's gone to pay this guy's wage, or to secure this contract, or to win hearts and minds in this riding for the sake of this guy who might know somebody that can provide this contract, which will subcontract. Now I'll say that again. Sequence of events.
Sounds like a lot of this is based on your experience with the military and the procurement system. And the politicians using this to their own advantage, but is there anything else with like libertarianism that you identify with, or is it more of a just let me alone to do what I want to do as long as I'm not hurting anyone?
Well, yeah, that basic principle too, and the simple fact that we all deserve liberty. We're all willing to work, and what I can tell from you lads right now, you want to work, you want to progress and do your thing. Great. Who's anyone to justify that or try to criticize that? I don't care if Bob and Steve next door get busy. Knock yourself up, boys. Have all the bum fun you want. I don't care. That's them, right? What gets me with what's going on now, people are talking about democracy and freedom. Oh, liberals, where it's at. It's like, well, liberal has changed its brand to a very, very ugly head. And yes, we're liberal. We want you to have peace and freedom, but we want you to think like us.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with someone the other day about that, and it's like, how did liberal go from meaning like freedom and like the ability to do stuff to pretty much communism?
Yeah.
I mean, I know words change over time, and you can reclaim words and all of this other nonsense that the left likes to do. But like, how do you drastically alter a word like?
To me, the opposite of its original.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's a good question.
I guess for that one, you stay tuned for our book club for 1984 when we talk about it. But like, short of that, like, I just can't. I can't explain it. Like, it's just yeah.
Well, you're more than welcome to come back for book club in 2 weeks.
Okay,
I guess 3 weeks in 3 weeks.
You guys bring the Kool-Aid, and I'll bring the cheese and the crackers, and we'll have a discussion. All right.
We are very intellectuals like that.
Well, I love a good book club. Hey, a good game of Hollywood Squares is always good too, right? So
yeah.
But the liberals I grew up with were exactly what they were. They were liberal. Let's debate, let's negotiate, let's talk about this. There's also a time too where Parliament was Parliament. You would watch Question Period. Like even at 10 years old, I was fascinated watching Question Period, just the back and forth, right? And
did they answer questions back then?
Actually, they did.
They've learned since then the appropriate response is no response.
Yeah, they actually did answer a question though too, right? And they get heated and debated, but then again, at the end of the session, they go have a drink, talk about it. Oh shit, okay. Politics. Now it's a great division. Now it's about identity. Now it's about gender. Now it's about you can't express yourself. Well, you can express yourself, but don't say these words. Don't question the government now because, oh my God, that's racist. We all seen Potato Head do that. You question his ability or his authority. Oh my God, you're a racist. Oh no, you're a conservative if you do that. And yet, I've been to places in the world where if you don't respect the laws and customs, you can get locked away, or in some cases, shot. So when I see somebody doing something illegal, okay, morally, I'm obligated in saying, hey, stop that, right? But now the way the government swings it, it's like, oh, okay, they're poor and destitute. Well, if they're poor and destitute, why do they dress better than I do? Why do they have better cell phones than I do?
Go back. You just touched on the division. Do you think that the political parties are that divisive? Is there a big gap between the liberals, big L, and the conservatives, big C, or is it like I don't look at our political parties as being vastly different from one another? I know that they're trying on a branding level, they're trying to divide Canadians every way they can, whether you believe in abortion or not, whether you're black or white, whether you believe in more or less taxes, or I guess it's not more or less, but just we're trying to negotiate on the exact sum of the taxes, how much help.
I'd say the lines are blurred, but the thing is they're definitely becoming more and more similar by the
know.
day because they're all trying to pander to the same people.
I think there is a bigger division now than there was. However, both parties have marched steadily to the left. So, like, the conservatives of today are very similar to the liberals of yesterday.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. But
between the two, there's a bigger gap than there was. But, like, it's, they're doing this.
Is there really though? Because like looking at the way that the conservative leadership election just went, the mere insinuation that a leadership candidate for the Conservative Party was not viscerally anti-abortion meant that they were painted in the media as wanting to kill babies.
Mhm.
Well, and that's where, like, back in the day, I think both sides would have been against it, just like both sides voted against gay marriage and all of that, and not all that long ago. Whereas now one is like, oh, you can't just be like not in favor of it, but allowing other people to do it. You literally have to go and have an abortion. Otherwise, you're literally Hitler.
Yeah.
Well, and same thing. O'Toole just got elected, and the first thing he did was, I'm going to sign on to the Paris Climate Accord, and I'm going to append it to Quebec right off the bat because Quebec has its own nation. I was like, what? Like, this is after the election. I was like, oh, okay.
And I kind of predicted that in that episode I did about that too. It's like, okay, he's healthy opposition. He's keeping the Liberals on their toes, as the opposition should in any parliamentary setting. He's also got a military background, so he comes from a blue-collar upbringing. He lost his mother when he was a kid, so he had to do some things on his own. But in the same sense, it's like, okay, I'm curious to see what he's going to do with Quebec. And like you said there, Ian, before you know it, okay, Quebec is this and the rest of Canada is that. It's like, no, my Canada includes all of Canada, right? Regardless if you speak English or French. And I've worked with a humongous amount of Quebecers in my time in the military. And I maybe had one that was willing to separate, one. And he was a reserve kid I was working with in New Brunswick, a little reservist. He didn't like being in Canada, but he liked getting Canadian money. That kind of shut him up, though, when I told him that. They say, well, you wear a uniform of Canada and you don't mind getting paid Canadian currency. So I guess Canada's not all that bad now, is it? And I remember the look in his face, too. He was like,
Yeah, but I think
Probably never been talked to like that before.
To your point, Andrew, the gap is widening, but the gap still isn't that far.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I mean. Like I look at all of the major political parties, and it's like, okay, so we have people that are way over on the crazy left and wear brightly colored headwear, and we have other people that are also on the left, but maybe with less exciting headwear.
Yeah, I mean the liberals and the conservatives are still two sides of the same coin. It's just that coin has gotten a little bit thicker.
I don't think,
but not really.
I don't think there's very few conservatives that would actually be called Republicans down in the States. Most of them still be called Democrats, right?
Well, even that model down in the States has changed too. American liberals, wow. As Robert Downey Jr. said, don't go full retard. And yeah, of course, you got people like AOC, Kamala Harris, can't make up her mind. Oh, Biden was a rapist a year ago, but now they're best of friends. Like
that, it was just a debate, though, Krusty. It was just a debate. So is she lying then or now? It's just a debate.
We don't know. Well, see, even when you watch the American debates, it's glorified mudslinging too. It's not 5 or 6 professionals on the stage exchanging ideas or counterpoint or point. It's like, well, you said this and you said that and you wore this and you picked your nose here and you farted here. And it's like, oh my God. Like even our debates in Canada now. When was the last time you actually sat and watched a great debate? Without someone chiming in, 30 seconds, 1 minute. It's like watching a game. It's like, no, Canadian people know there's debates going on and these guys have something to say instead of being regulated by the paid-for media by Mr. Potato Head and his sock puppets, right? Thing is, what you were saying there, Urbex, too, about the conservatives being a thicker, I agree with that. But I'm seeing more and more conservatives come out of the work and talk about free markets, what we need. We need free markets. We need to get our oil out there, our resources out there. We need to get people out there working again and not worry about the CERB payments. I'm not dissing anyone who had the CERB payments, by all means. There are a lot of people who needed it. But nothing beats a good day in Canada when you've actually worked 8 to 12 hours of it. That's a great feeling. Oh, what do you guys say?
Sure. No, I'm more curious about the what I think is the impending election and your thoughts around that, and I think we're kind of covering those off. I just don't know if there's anything else like maybe the NDP's demands, because Jagmeet has been vocal about things that he wants, and I don't know if those are things he's necessarily going to get or things that Yves would like to see for Quebec, the great nation of Quebec.
Well, I like how Yves Blanchet is standing his ground, as much as I disagree with him. And Mr. NDP, so much racism in Canada, and yet I think he's just as racist too. He's using the race card. I
don't disagree with that at all. And I really question anyone who's like, for example, the head of a major political party and is playing the race card.
Yeah.
Is it how racist could the institution possibly be when you're the leader of the third largest party in the parliament?
No, but you see, like I said, like when you completely reverse the definition of words, it makes sense. So racism is no longer, basing people off the color of the race. That isn't racism. But never mind. Point is, they're all racist. It's a huge, just a huge muddle of projectionism. Anything the left says that you are is really what they're doing, but they can't, come to terms with reality. So they make up their own imagination, and then they claim everything that they are. That's what the other side is.
Yeah.
Well, if you can't attack the argument, you got to attack the person. That's just the way politics goes now.
Yeah, it's a shit show. It's like whatever happened at, like, say, good old fashioned debate, right? It's null and void. Like every debate I've watched the past 5 years has been timed like a penalty shot, or like a game. It's like, fuck no, I want to hear
what I'm hearing is we finally know what Don Cherry should do now that he's retired.
He should be there reffing, moderating debates. That would be so perfect. You people there, fucking shut up. You there, okay, talk.
I was thinking making him PM, but I mean, yeah, okay.
I would vote for him. I would vote for him in a heartbeat on a whim. I would say, yes, Don. Or have him as Governor General. He doesn't need a budget. He dresses himself. He doesn't need a staff. Don could do it. I could sit there. Hey, Your Majesty, how you doing? Good to see you. This is what I want for Canada. Huh? Pay attention here. I think she'd listen. I think she would.
How could she not?
Oh, God. She'd be like, oh, who's this gentleman? Oh, my God. Oh, Philip, get the broom. I think Don would do it. But to answer your question, I don't think
I'd like to see that.
Well, that'd be hilarious. That'd be effing hilarious. I would that's like something you'd see in Second City. That'd be. I think I just gave myself an idea.
Yeah, put that on the scratch pad for later. Definitely. I don't know if any of the NDP demands are serious. I think a lot of the initial stuff, like the extra sick days and stuff during COVID, is stuff that the Liberal Party would have done anyway. So it was an easy way to secure extra votes.
Oh, of course.
I don't know that we're seeing Jagmeet get a lot of extra things once we're done being prorogued.
I wonder how much of it is him just, pretending to put up a front and knowing that he's going to get these things anyways. But it seems like, we're the opposition. We're opposing, but they're giving us what we want, so it's all okay.
Yeah, so smoke and mirrors just for shits and giggles, basically.
Yeah. Well, just for show, right? That's
Yeah. I just don't find him to be a very, very strong leader. Like, I think he's smart. I think he's an intelligent man. True. But like I said, the moment you start pulling the race card, I lose all respect. You should have a little more articulation and a little more sense than worrying about what race you are. Because I can honestly say I was not raised in a racist household. I was not. You treat people with respect and dignity, and you go out and you show kindness to people. You don't give two shits what color they are, right? I judge people on their actions. I've had many employers that were from different nationalities. I worked for a man from Hong Kong. I worked for a guy from Greece. My section commanders, one guy was from Chile. I worked for another guy that was from Jamaica. So it's like we had that diversity. So it was never a big issue to worry about, oh, my boss is this or my boss is that. It wasn't there. Racism was not there. I found more prejudice in the public schoolyard over what sports you played or what your clothes you're wearing rather than anything racial in my life. So I'm not denying the fact that there's no such thing as racism in Canada. There are racists out there, but it's not systemic and it's not everywhere you turn. It's just lying to people. And then when someone pulls a race card, I'm this and I deserve that. No, you don't. You don't.
Well, I think that goes back to really early on in the episode. We were talking about entitlements, and that's another one of those people feel that they're entitled. Well, I'm a different, visible, definable group, so I'm entitled to my special treatment because we're disadvantaged because of our visible specialness,
or the history, or what have you. Like my history comes from Ireland and Scotland, my namesake. Okay. Does that mean every English person I talk to now owes me £1.50 for what happened in the 1850s?
Let's hope not.
I hope not. It'd be kind of cool, though. That's a lot of coin. But I wasn't there, and they weren't there, right? I actually had a debate with some commie kid on my Facebook page saying, you have to understand and recognize your white privilege.
Yeah, my white privilege.
Don't
get me started.
Oh, I just delete. Every time that starts, I just delete it, because my rebuttal to that is check your prejudice before you criticize my privileges, right? Shit simple.
Well, the minute they said white privilege, they actually just assumed a bunch of stuff based on the color of your skin, which is inherently racist, of course.
Exactly.
Which would be like
be
me walking up to like a 6-year-old Japanese girl and punching her in the nose over Pearl Harbor or something, or what happened in Hong Kong for Canadian troops. It's like, why would I do that? Like
that reminds me of a classic joke.
Yeah.
A Jew walks into a restaurant and he sees a Chinaman and he starts yelling at him over Pearl Harbor. He says, "What are you yelling at me for? I'm Chinese, not Japanese." So the guy says, "Chinese, Japanese, same thing. Who cares?" So then the Chinaman starts yelling at him about the Titanic. He's like, "Titanic? I'm Jewish. What's that got to do with Titanic?" He's like, "Goldberg, iceberg, same thing." The point is that just because there's no point. The point is that's stupid.
Exactly, but a funny joke nonetheless. You could see Jackie Mason saying that joke and it'd still be funny.
Hey,
Goldberg, iceberg, what's the difference? Imagine Woody Allen saying that joke too. That'd be something as hell. No, I better not. No, he's a pervert now. So no, not Woody Allen. So
definitely one of those Hollywood pedocrats.
Yeah. So, but what were you asking me there, Andrew, about the NDP again? Sorry.
Oh, I was probably just picking on Jagmeet Singh some more.
Well, actually, I was kind of curious. Is like you guys noticed in the last 5 years, it's all of a sudden the coalition governments are cool. It never used to happen in Canada that I can recall. And like you look over at Germany, like the Social Democrats and the Christian Party over there, they're always doing coalition governments, which you think is kind of strange. But all of a sudden now, for the last 6 months, it's been like a solid coalition government, no problem.
Yeah,
it used to always be just one party.
But they haven't been in parliament doing any real work, though, too. That's the thing. Yeah. So,
credit to Marty, who's not here, because I'm totally stealing something that he told me. I think that the reason that we're seeing a successful coalition government right now is because we've never seen minority parties with such extreme levels of power that they've been able to exercise. The Bloc hasn't had this many seats in parliament in
since
30 years.
Yeah,
like the early 90s, like pre-Gretchen.
Yeah, I think since they had about 60 seats prior to the last Meech Lake in 95, I think, and then they just kind of.
So the Bloc has never. Like the Bloc hasn't been in power or hasn't had this much power in the federal parliament in decades.
Yeah.
The NDP has probably never had as many seats as they have now. Maybe when Jack Layton was alive, that last session of parliament before he died, they might have had as many seats as they have now. But the NDP has never held significant sway over parliament because they've always been the third party against a much larger majority.
Yeah. And they've always.
I think that's why we're seeing the coalition working right now, is because the Liberals have such a very minor, weak majority government that they're able to get away with. The NDP wants sick days as an example, because that was a thing that came up recently. Well, it behooves the Liberals to do that anyway. And if Jagmeet's going to demand it and pound his racist fist on the table and demand extra sick days for the proletariat, I mean, for the workers, then
You nailed it. Yeah.
right.
The People's
So
Party.
why would they not do that and pander for the votes? Because now the Liberals are giving the otherwise NDP voters something that they would want anyway. And Yves is going to do whatever is in the interest of the great nation of Quebec because he's all about Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
So why would they give that? Why would they give that up? It doesn't do any of the minority parties in the current climate any favors to have an election because they're almost certainly going to come out in a worse position than they have right now.
So they'll hold on to whatever they can. But
Well, I would expect it. I mean, wouldn't you if you were in politics? Would you not hold on to whatever power you could?
oh, of course, because you want, but the way I look at politics, like say if I was elected from the party I'm in, I'd be representing my constituents to the best of my ability. That's just because that's my ethic. I could give two shits.
So you'd make for a very poor politician then.
Well, I just take them out in the parking lot and give them the old 1-2, like my old man taught me. It's like, oh, you want to be?
Well, let's touch on your political party because we have not had many other political people on here. I would say than the nominal conservatives. So let's talk a little bit about the party with which you're affiliated.
Well, I recently joined the Veterans Coalition Party. Like I said, I'm a libertarian, and I explained that to the leader of the party, which I worked with him a few years ago back in battalion there. I know him as a great leader, a real doer. He's very quiet though, but he gets things done. And he kicked some ass and took some names back in the day, so he's not afraid to stand his ground. And I'm talking, let's say, on the podium here. The VCP, basically Veterans Coalition Party, was basically started up after Trudeau made his infamous comments to Blake there in regards to you're asking for too much. So, and the party format, I'll leave a link for you guys too if your fans want to look at it. But it's basically this: environment, cutting MPs' pay, cutting it down, right? More pay for seniors, robust military, i.e., be able to go anywhere in Canada, right? Dissecting UN mandates, dissecting all these climate control mandates, and basically having a flat tax rate of maybe 20-odd%. That's just sum up for you what I've memorized so far. And it represents,
I can get behind that. I think the party platform, I think, is like 25 policy points right now, something like that.
Yeah, it's just under that. When we change, I talk once in a while with leader Randy. I'm actually the candidate for this area here in Alberta. So let's say if they do call an election, then I'll have to get my signatures and follow procedure and all that, get some signs made up, and hopefully take part in the debate. I've met the conservative candidate in this area. Good man, his boss. He helped me along the way to get my benefits sorted out from Veterans Affairs. But the conservative brand is not the same as it was. Right? It was like a thick coin, two sides of the same coin. Yeah, they want free markets, but then again, they love regulation too. I'm getting tired of regulation.
Marginally less regulation. Yeah.
Well,
I think the conservative brand has changed about 5 times in my voting lifetime. That's for sure.
Yeah, like
what is the Veterans Party's policy on memberships in other parties? Because I recently joined the Green Party for reasons.
You want to drink with Elizabeth May, do you?
Shit, I don't think my bar tab would come anywhere near
Chardonnay.
Yeah, nobody could afford that.
Yeah, most people have an ABC policy when it comes to conservatives. Mine is anything but Chardonnay. That's how I roll.
Well, I don't mind the odd red wine. Maybe Elizabeth might.
Yeah.
Yeah. She rides her Dodge Viper. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's you can't really be affiliated with another party. You can't be affiliated with another party.
All right.
So
well, as soon as they have their
you'll
vote
have
for
to-
leadership, I'll denounce my.
You'll have
My
to denounce
membership.
your Green Party membership after you get your
Yeah.
person in. I was going to say your girl,
Yeah.
but that's
No.
gendered language, and we
You
can't
can't
use that
say
with the Green
You
Party.
can't say, yeah, not with Amita. She's a pansexual, asexual, non-binary candidate.
I thought most people
I'm
on
just
the left
saying,
are
I respect
asexual.
Amita. I respect Dr. Amita's
Not
pronouns.
by choice. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
And the fact that she's for gun ownership for home defense. That is the part that I respect the most.
We
The
respect
rest of it, I don't care about because it's none of my business.
Yeah. So, well, that's
And she lives within 20 miles of me too, which is kind of cool.
You could like go out and wave.
Yeah.
No, I like a lot of stuff that the Veterans Coalition Party has been putting out in the last couple of years since they gained their party status there, and we had a chance to talk to Brock after that incident with the Prime Minister, and it bothers me in a way that is difficult to express in words how much I dislike how the Trudeau government treats our military and our veterans.
That's been a staple since 1968, believe it or not. There was a friend of mine.
Service unification had something to do with being treated poorly? Shocking.
I was going to ask if that was the year that unification happened.
Yeah, that too. And just the way Pierre treated the military, how he looked down on the troops. And all
So
of a
like
sudden,
father, like son.
Yeah, the man who has even quoted he would love a benign dictatorship too. Right. That's
I mean, if you admire China, these things happen.
I admire China. I admire the martial arts, the discipline. I don't admire the Communist Party.
Oh, the basic dictatorship of the Communist Party is not. Oh,
it's not my cup of tea. No.
I mean, I admire good communists. And by that, I mean the ones that are dead.
Exactly. The only good commie is a dead commie.
Short of that, the living ones, not so much.
No. And especially the big new wave of the so-called neo-Marxist mentality and the group mentality and how they talk about, we're here for the workers. And yet how many of these kids actually work for a living?
So very few. But I mean, this is more of that entitlement mentality again.
Yeah. The state should look after it because we go to school and we have degrees. Well, you don't have a degree in humility, for starters. You need a degree in common sense, which doesn't really cost you much. It can vary. It can be a cuff upside the head from your old man, or realizing, shit, I have no money, I have to do something.
Let me ask you
to give you some of yours.
Oh yeah.
Let me ask you a hypothetical there, Krusty. Then we've talked about it on the show a couple of times. You've served in our military. I'm going to say during a wartime with everything that was going on in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you land if we were to say form a conscript army like they do in certain European nations, so that some of our entitled youth have the opportunity to serve a cause greater than themselves?
What do I think about conscription?
Well, or if we were to enact something similar to say what Sweden does,
or what Switzerland does.
Exactly.
Personally, I would disagree with it unless there's World War III. Right. When I was 17, I had no idea what the hell I wanted to do. And at that time in my life, I was like, fuck the military. Fuck that. I was into punk rock and shit. So I wanted to rock and roll, which I did. Had a couple of bands. But I would say if the kid was supposed to go to jail, okay, here's an option. You spend 2 years in the slammer or 3 years in the army. I had instructors that actually went through that back in the 70s, when they were kids in the 70s, and then they had their asses kicked, and then they joined the army and they became good people. So I could see that being a mandate, but then as a libertarian too, it's based on volunteerism. If you want the army, it should be there for you. Okay, give 2 or 3 years. In a way, I would like to see some kids get a good kick in the ass of humility, but in the same sense, I'm not going to force them to do it. But as they get older and they think they're entitled to things, it's going to be just that much harder. So I prefer if they had the opportunity to volunteer for it, more so than you see now. The commercials they have on now just doesn't seem, it's like all happy, joy, let's go camping. The army. No, show the military, show some strength. There's lots of women I've served with that kick ass and took names, and they still make it like it's one big, ooh, we're the army. You know what I mean? It's just so. But to answer your question, I personally don't believe you should force a kid to do it. But let's say if the kid got into trouble with the law, And the Queen's Bench said, all right, you got two choices. One, you go to the slammer, or two, you do 3 years in the military. I would be okay with that.
All right.
Because Juby Hall, what do they do with criminals right now? They give them sweat lodges, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Like, no, there's no sweat lodge in the Army.
I do that to relax. I don't do that because I've been arrested for murdering a child. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's horrendous. So. Yeah.
We should ask where we can find your show, or I guess where our listeners. I know where to find your show, but for our listeners, if they wanted to check you out online and hear more of what you have to say, where would they find you? What's your regular schedule like?
Well, I try to get an episode up at least once a week because I've been laid off. I was laid off last month from my job because of the whole beer bug thing. I was the new guy, right? So that's the pecking order. But if you want to find my podcast, you can find me at Podbean on krustycanuck.podbean.com. And every time I load an episode there, it automatically goes to YouTube, and you can find me on YouTube under Krusty Canuck as well.
Right on.
Yeah.
And you got a fair size catalog there, haven't you?
You mean as subscribers or what I have for episodes?
Your episode count. You're up to quite a few episodes there.
I'm about 68 episodes, I think, now. So
that's something that we found with podcasts. There was a very old original podcast adage that everyone has a podcast and it lasts one episode. And you seem to have been significantly more favorable outcome than just that one initial episode. I think I was just listening to episode 66 in the garage there when I was reloading this afternoon.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like. Well,
I do.
I'm glad you'd enjoy it.
We should go around and start wrapping things up. So, Gavin, I'm going to ask you, where can everybody find you on the internet?
On the internet, because I got booted off the Facebooks, the only place you can find me is on the Instagrams, Urbex_GTA, or live and in person in Ottawa this Saturday. Be there.
Cool. Right on.
Oh, that's a good point. Ian, where can everybody find you?
Well, when I'm not listening to my daily dose of common sense with the Krusty Canuck, I can be found at the islandretreat@gmail.com. You can also find me recording Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Canadian Prepper Podcast.
Right on.
All right. Krusty, I know I just asked you about your podcast. You want to plug your social media?
Yeah, you can also find me on Facebook under Krusty Canuck, Instagram, Krusty Canuck. I'm also on Parler under Krusty Canuck, and you can find me on Twitter too. So.
And when will you be getting an OnlyFans account?
Well, once I get my beach body back and I'm not afraid to download my dirties on my phone.
Yeah. That paywall, I tell you, it's going to be something.
Just don't tell my
wife. Definitely,
as long as you keep her in the custom she's accustomed to, then you're good to go, right?
Good to go. Yeah, I keep the toupee on when she's around.
Yeah.
No, sorry. No. But yeah, you can find me on YouTube and Podbean, just the same here. So,
right on. Benny, where can everybody find you?
BennyLoose.ca. Pick up some cam loaders or some custom molded ear protection.
Nice.
All right. I want to remind everybody, if you're shopping on Amazon, which I know you all are, you all have Prime accounts. I know you do. Use the link in the show notes, get yourself an official Big Luau shirt, and then anything you buy on Amazon, we get a little affiliate revenue from that. And I very much appreciate it. I got free diapers this month. And by free diapers, I mean our associate money paid for my son's diapers. And that was wonderful. So thank you.
Outstanding.
Also, shout out to my wife for using the gift card to buy my son diapers. I definitely wasn't planning on using that for the podcast. It's fine. Totally fine. Gavin mentioned it. There's the protest in Ottawa this Saturday. If you're going to be in around the Ottawa area, you should get on board with the CCFR's Integrity March. A bunch of us will be there. You can find us appropriately dressed because we're encouraging people to remember that good optics are the best optics. Your tactical attire, I say as I'm wearing my multicam pants, is probably not appropriate for the march in Ottawa. We should also do feedback. If you have feedback for the show, send us your feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. And I have to apologize to Rod. We couldn't get Rod Giltaca on the episode. We had the opportunity to do a guest interview with Krusty Knuck. Obviously, with this amount of celebrity, we wanted to get him on. We'll try and get Rod in again in a future episode when the scheduling works out. I'm sorry we had to bump Rod this week. For all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I'd like to remind you that you are the true North, strong and free.